Island Coastal Resources Management Council's Planning and Procedures Subcommittee to order. Today is Tuesday, July 23, 2024. As I indicated, we have a sign-in sheet for anyone that wishes to speak. I'd ask Lisa, if you could just retrieve that, because we'll work off that, and then if anyone else comes in that wants to sign it, they can sign a duplicate or the one underneath that one. We are a hybrid meeting. There is a public link for public viewing only. There's a camera there. We are recording the proceedings as well. For anyone that wishes to speak, we'll have you come forward. We will ask you your name, spell it for the record, and just speak clearly. And with that, I'm going to ask for a motion to approve the minutes of the previous meeting being May 14, 2024.
So moved.
Motion's been made. Is there a second? Motion made and seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye. Aye. Anyone opposed? That motion carries. Next on our agenda is old business / works in progress. I don't believe there are any. Is that correct, Director Willis?
That is correct, Mr. Chair.
All right. Next on our agenda would be number 4, advance notice of proposed rulemaking on a petition for promulgation of rules, that being 2024-04-071 Quidnessett Country Club. It's a petition for change to map of water type classification for North Kingston, parentheses, north, close parentheses. I would ask at this time for Director Willis to give an explanation, a brief explanation as to why we're here, what the application is, for the benefit of those that may not know.
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Chair. So back in the later spring, we received a petition from the country club to change the water type from type 2 to type 1. That was put out to notice in an advanced notice of public rulemaking that we advertised on May 21st of this year, with a public comment period that ended on June 28th, excuse me. Within that time period, we received several comments, obviously, and some of those comments asked for a public hearing under a section of the statute for when we are actually in rulemaking. We are not actually in rulemaking now. It's an advance notice. So the advance notice is to do what we're doing tonight, gather comment. However, the section of the general laws that offers if 25 people or more request a hearing, one shall be given, was for when you are in actual rulemaking. However, since we received more than 25 requests to have a hearing under the incorrect statutory citation, it was pretty clear that we needed this type of meeting in addition to gathering public comments that we put out in the advance notice back in May and June. So that's why we're here tonight. We're here only to receive public comment, whether you are for, against, or otherwise for this particular petition. We will not be making any decisions tonight, but we welcome your comments relative to the request of the country club to change the regulations of the Coastal Resources Management Council.
Thank you. Any questions from our council members of Mr. Willis?
No.
Thank you. Okay, I'm now going to turn it over to our legal counsel, Anthony DeSisto, to give an explanation as to the procedure for the meeting here today.
Well, this meeting is pursuant to section 42-35-2.5, subsection A, and subsection D of the general laws. And that allows this subcommittee to solicit comments and recommendations from the public. And that's what we're here for today. It's just for the comment period on this proposed rulemaking. And from here, after these comments are taken and noted, this will be sent out to staff, and staff will make a recommendation. It'll come back to this committee for further action prior to going to the council. And that is under the same statute.
Okay. Any questions? Mr. Willis?
Can I just do a couple housekeeping matters?
Absolutely.
So a number of you have signed in to speak tonight or not, but you've also signed in your opposing or in favor of the matter. We ask that if you would like to be on our email list for any future meetings or actions on this matter, to please give that to us now, or we can see Lisa Turner, our recording secretary, after the meeting, and she can take down your email address, and we'll make sure that you're added to any future notifications that we issue. And then one more housekeeping matter. The exit door over there, underneath the exit sign on my far left, your right, is only to be used in an emergency. There's an active meetings and offices going on with the state folks over there, and they asked us not to go in and out of that door while we're in this meeting. But of course, if there's an emergency, we have that exit, this one, and the one behind us if we need to. So thank you all for that, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Okay. We will begin. I'm going to go down the list. And the first individual that has signed up is Mike Jabot. Am I saying that correct?
Mhm.
So just for the record, if you could identify yourself,
Thank you,
please.
Mr. Chair. My name is Mike Jarbo, Jarbeau, and I'm representing Save the Bay. We previously submitted written comments on this matter. Hopefully you've had a chance to read them. Tonight, I just wanted to highlight a few of the key issues from Save the Bay's perspective for you. We believe this petition should be denied, and given the applicant's ongoing violation and the harm to coastal resources, it is inappropriate to even consider this petition at this time. We believe the petition should be denied for several reasons. First, the council's stated goal is to preserve and protect type 1 waters. The applicant fails to make a case for why the water type classification should be changed from type 1. No substantive changes have been made to the area under consideration since its designation as type 1. Type 2 waters, especially in this part of the bay, are characterized by hardened structures and docks, many of which precede the CRMC. These areas rarely have sandy shorelines or provide the habitat value of the site in question today. The applicant relies on the construction of condos more than 1,500 feet from the shoreline and a minor addition at an adjacent property to justify the water type change. These upland changes have no relevance to the type 1 water classification. Second, prior to the illegal construction of the wall currently on the shoreline, the area supported coastal functions, provided shoreline habitat, and allowed for unrestricted public access. These are important features of type 1 waters. A 2012 CRMC staff report related to a previously proposed, less intrusive project on this property detailed likely loss of natural functions, habitat, reduced shoreline access, and the elimination of a sediment source for an adjacent wetland system. Approval of this petition would set an incredibly dangerous precedent, weakening CRMC regulations and encouraging unchecked coastal development. Finally, it is inappropriate to consider a water type change as a potential path to allowing the wall to remain in place. There is no evidence to show that the wall was built in accordance with standards, and it will need to be removed even if the water type is changed through this process. Finally, Save the Bay encourages the subcommittee to deny this petition, to maintain the type 1 water type classification, and we ask the council to proceed with enforcement action, including the removal of the illegally built wall and restoration of the shoreline. Thank you.
Thank you. Next is Stephen Lombardi.
Hi, thank you for the opportunity to speak. My name is Stephen Lombardi, Lombardi. I'm the Executive Director of the East Greenwich Chamber of Commerce. I'm also a past member of the New England Golf Course Owners Association, as my family has been in the golf course business for many years. By way of background, I've had a long and personal business affiliation with Quidnessett. Quidnessett is a longtime member of the East Greenwich Chamber of Commerce. We have our annual meeting at Quidnessett, and we often do 2 events per year at Quidnessett. Further, many of our East Greenwich Chamber members are Quidnessett members and host events there, including golf events. And I've been quoted in the Boston Globe and the USA Today in a previous letter. I realized the importance of Quidnessett Country Club to the community in the state of Rhode Island at an early age when I attended a Arnold Palmer versus Sam Snead golf event in the early 60s. I was also the president of the University of Rhode Island Alumni Association. We had our annual alumni golf tournament at Quidnessett. And I pressed for that because I thought it was such a great place for our university to gather. And I would want subsequent organizations and events to always have that opportunity to come to Quidnessett. Quidnessett is a very important asset to our entire community. It provides jobs, social and networking opportunities, and serves both the business community and the many organizations seeking a great site for events. Quidnessett is an 18-hole golf course that, as presently configured, and it's an aesthetic and green space asset to our community. So the reason I'm advocating the petition is that the integrity and the preservation of the 18 holes is critical to Quidnessett's continued success and its valuable role in the community and the entire state. So I respectfully ask that you consider adopting Quidnessett's water type change petition. Regardless of previous circumstances, I am advocating in the strongest possible terms that Quidnessett be granted approval so that the future of this important community and state asset can be ensured.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, Bob Apice? What's that? All right. James Boyd.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My name is James Boyd, B-O-Y-D. Mr. Chairman, council members Reynolds and Gagnon, CRMC legal counsel and CRMC staff, it's very nice to see you all. And I must say it's odd for me to be sitting on this side of the table as opposed to over with the staff. As you know, I spent more than 2 decades working with the CRMC, helping to write regulations and policy and help in the enforcement of the rules and regulations of the CRMC and the protection of our wonderful natural resources here in Rhode Island. My June 26th letter was submitted for the record. I'm not going to read that letter verbatim. There are a few points I do want to discuss and summarize here this evening. Primarily, I am opposed to the water type change classification as put forth in the petition by the Country Club. The only reason that the Country Club has put forth this petition is to cover up for an illegally constructed wall on their property. They knowingly constructed this wall, knowing that a permit was necessary to do so. And in fact, they've known so for more than a decade, going back at least to 2012, because at that time, you'll recall, or certainly staff will, that they had applied for a wall at that time. It was a different type of wall. It was a wall, a sheet pile wall that was going to be set back from the inland edge of the bluff, somewhere around 25 feet inland of the bluff. It would have been within the 50-foot setback, so it was obviously to be regulated. But at that time, we did not have regulations that would have treated that as structural shoreline protection. Its intended purpose was to protect the 14th fairway in the future from erosion. Country Club never carried forth with that application. The council at that time had admonished them to come forward with a combined application to do non-structural shoreline and revegetation in combination with that seawall. And the council was so concerned with that application at the time, we actually wrote new regulations. I drafted them. The council approved those regulations in June of 2012 to deal with any sheet pile wall or structure similar to that was constructed within the 50-foot setback would be considered structural shoreline protection, which, as you know, is prohibited on type 1 shorelines. This is a type 1 shoreline from Calf Pasture Point, just north of Davisville, all the way up to Green River. to the mouth there, at Sandpoint and Greenwich Bay is a type 1 shoreline. The country club in its petition is suggesting that this is a residential recreational area. Well, the Mount View neighborhood immediately south and abutting the country club is indeed type 2. It's a medium dense residential area. Homes are within tens of feet of the coastal feature, and there are many pre-existing seawalls. It was appropriately classified by the CRMC in the 1980s as a type 2 shoreline. But everything north up to the Greens River and everything south to Calf Pasture Point is type 1. There are residences, there are townhouses on the country club property. There's 47 townhouses and 17 structures, as I understand it. The nearest townhouse is 500 feet from the shoreline. The country club is 1,000 feet from the shoreline. Neither of those are at risk from erosion on this particular shoreline. The structure itself, as you know, it's an illegally constructed revetment. From all the photographs that I've seen, from my observations on the water, and I'm on the bay 200 days a year now, since I've retired from the CRMC. And I see this wall almost every day that I go out, because I come out of Apponaug to go into the upper bay, and I look over and I can see this structure. It is really obvious on that shoreline. It does not appear to be an engineered structure. It looks as though this stone was mostly dumped in place and maybe some of it placed with machinery. We've seen no evidence that this was designed by a Rhode Island registered professional engineer and plans prepared by a professional engineer, which is a requirement of the CRMC regulations, irrespective of if this wasn't a type 1 shoreline. In my view, it needs to be removed. And the enforcement here should be that this wall should be removed and the shoreline restored. As it exists right now, it is blocking lateral public access along the shoreline at high tide. That's clear from the photographs taken prior to the construction of the wall last year. And as it exists today, if you were to walk that shoreline at high tide today, like around 10 a.m., you would be walking up on the revetment and endangering yourself walking along the rocks to get from north to south or south to north along that shoreline. Lastly, clearly the country club did this to protect the 14th fairway, because that's the one that is in closest proximity to that bank that has experiencing the erosion problem. I'm certainly not suggesting that the club let the 14th fairway fall into the bay. And I don't think anyone here wants to see that happen either. However, the country club has alternatives. There are 4 fairways in that northeast corner of the country club. They can be redesigned and realigned and moved away from that eroding bluff. That bluff, the angle of repose on that bluff could be angled back so it's less erosive. It could be planted, and non-structural methods can work there. The club touts the fact that it's a Donald Ross design course, and I have no doubt that it is, and I'm sure it's a fabulous course. I don't play golf. I happen to live in East Providence. We have another couple of Donald Ross design courses in East Providence. Most recently, Met Links was opened up, the former Metacomet Golf Club, which is now being redeveloped as a multi-use property, residential and commercial businesses. But just a month ago, the new Met Links 9-hole golf course was just opened. It was designed by Northeast Gulf, Robert McNeil, who did a fabulous job redesigning and realigning a Donald Ross design course. If it can be done there, it can be done at Quidnessett. The revetment is not necessary. It should be removed, the shoreline restored, and alternatives be considered. With that, Mr. Chairman, I'd be happy to answer any questions that you or other council members have. Otherwise, I'll conclude my comments.
Thank you. Next, Joe Perillo.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Hello, everyone. My name is Joe Perillo, P-A-R-R-I-L-L-O. I am going to speak to you today about my employer and the ramifications this may have on employees. This is important to me because not only is this company our job, it's our livelihood. Quidnessett Country Club is a pillar to the community, and I hope it can continue to thrive and showcase the beauty of its golf course. From special events, weddings, charitable golf tournaments, and nonprofits, Quidnessett Country Club and its employees work hard to support their families and households. I support the change to type 2 as it affects the success of the company as well as each and every employee that works into it. Thank you.
Thank you. Evan Kenny.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good afternoon, councilors. I'm not here to,
Could you say his name?
I'm sorry, Evan Kenny, K-E-N-N-E-Y. I'm not here to debate about type 1 and type 2 waters. I'm not qualified to assess those matters. That's the important work that you folks do. I'm just here to ask for discretion and advocate for, as an employee of the company, to advocate for discretion in any pursuit of restoration efforts or any other punitive measures that you folks may consider. I think it's important to protect the club, and I think it's important to make sure that any measures that this council requires are financially reasonable. And I just want to make sure that every employee, in the club can continue to enjoy employment and not have to face any sort of unreasonable financial obligations that may have been unforeseen. Thank you.
Fred DeFinis. Did I say it right?
Thank you. Fred DeFinis, D-E-F-I-N-I-S. I am the second vice president of Rhode Island Saltwater Anglers Association, a group that represents about 2,000 saltwater anglers in Rhode Island, a subset of over 45,000 licensed saltwater anglers in Rhode Island. We all know through the CRMC that the water designations require careful and painstaking analysis to come to these designations, and there's really no compelling public interest at this time to be downgrading a particular waterway because we have construction of a wall contrary to the CRMC's own regulation. I feel that this would undermine the authority and credibility of the CRMC, and I therefore urge that the CRMC abstain from any rulemaking that would downgrade this waterway from its current status.
Thank you. Matt Brannigan. Kevin Colton,
My name is Kevin Colton, Kevin Colton. I'm the assistant golf professional at Quidnessett Country Club. I've been employed there for 3 years. It has been nothing but great to me. It's a place that I would like to continue to work at. Unfortunately, this decision will directly affect me and all the other employees that work there as well. I would hope you take that into consideration and look at this in a more holistic view, because this is bigger than golf. This is also our careers and our lives. So please just take that into consideration. Thank you for your time.
thank you. Alex Parente,
Hello, everyone. My name is Alex Parente. It is Parente. I am also the assistant golf professional at Quidnessett Country Club. A little bit different than my fellow golf professional, Kevin. I have actually worked there for 12 years. It's the only job I've ever had. Quidnessett Country Club means so much to me, and part of that is our golf course, right? It's one of the top golf courses in the state, and all 18 holes are spectacular, the 14th hole in particular. And under the current water type, we are not able to protect it. If the golf course falls into the ocean, it is not the golf course anymore. It is not Quidnessett Country Club. And just for the record, Quidnessett Country Club was designed by Jeffrey Cornish, not Donald Ross. But yeah, I mean, as an employee of the club has, I mean, I've grown with the club. I started out as a kid, and hopefully people will agree. I think I've turned myself into a relatively upstanding young man. The club in its entirety, all the members, ownership have always been very good to me, and I would hate to see it fall into the ocean and no longer be what it should be. I appreciate any support of this water type change, and I just, like Kevin said, I just want you guys to realize that, you know, there are employees here that the club means a lot to, and our employment may rest in the balance of keeping this golf course a golf course. Thank you.
thank you. Peter,
Yeah, I can find my last name.
Chualis, it's not written that neat, so I could give it a shot, but you're gonna say it for us, please.
Members of the committee, good afternoon. My name is Peter Folashevsky. I am the golf professional at Quidnessett. Folashevsky is spelled CHWALISZEWSKI.
No way. I could have said
I
that.
didn't think you did so, Peter. I work with Alex and Kevin. Alex just stole my line referencing that it's designed by Jeffrey Cornish. I think it's important to reiterate because the other gentleman mentioned that it would be, you could redesign the golf course and you could bring in an architect. It sounds like he didn't know who our golf course architect was. And so my guess is that his knowledge of course design is not that extensive either. If we were to redesign the golf course and change everything, we would cease to be Quidnessett Country Club. It is a special place. It's a Rhode Island icon. We hold many junior golf clinics. We've had thousands of kids come through our golf instructional clinics. We're trying to grow the game and provide a service to our members and members of our community. As an employee of the club, I rely on this club to provide for my wife and family. I think the perception of country clubbers is that it's a very privileged place, and I would say that there's a lot of employees here that work for this organization that rely on it to provide for themselves and their families. So the decisions that are made based off of the input in this meeting have serious consequences, not only for the members and the golfers, but for all of us employees. And secondly, given the events of COVID and everything that's happened in the last 5 or 6 years, you know, people have really tried to embrace their outdoor spaces. And so I understand that the role of CRMC is to help protect the coastline and things of that nature, but also please don't lose sight of the fact that we need help protecting our outdoor spaces, and one of those is this golf course. So I hope that you take that into consideration, and I appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you. Jeff Gladstone. I could say that one. That's easy.
Yes, that's correct. Mr. Chairman, thank you very much. Thank you, members of the board. My name is Jeffrey Gladstone. I come here on wearing a number of hats and a yarmulke, as a matter of fact. I'm a member, and I have been a member of Quidnessett Country Club for about 30 years. I lived in East Greenwich, I live in Warwick, and I'm a lifelong Rhode Islander. I'm very familiar with the CRMC, DEM. I'm an active lawyer, been practicing since the 80s. Anthony DeSisto is one of my great opponents who I always am in fear of whenever I go into courtroom and see him standing there. But what I would like to stress, if I may, is coming from somebody who understands the impact that these regulations and that, quite frankly, the change in sea level is having on all of us, not only in Rhode Island, but everywhere. We're going to be having to face a lot of difficult changes. And some of those changes are going to be impacting landowners such as Quidnessett Country Club and other private landowners. And it's not anybody's fault that we're in this situation, but but many of us enjoy the shoreline, and we appreciate what Rhode Island has to give. And one of the things that I am hoping that we can do here is develop an approach that is going to respect what we've all come to love and to cherish in Rhode Island, and that's our seacoast and the development along the seacoast, and that includes Quidnessett Country Club. Quidnessett Country Club is a very unique place. Although I heard that there is a suggestion of a redesign, I can tell you from having played there for decades that you really can't do that. And that's also because of not only CRMC regulations, but DEM regulations. There are wetlands all over the place. It's very narrow in terms of where you can develop without actually impacting water bodies. So I think I would suggest that it would be impossible to maintain a 18-hole golf course with the limited amount of space that there is and the configuration of the golf course, because it's broken up the way it is. So we have what I would consider to be a historic landmark, and I think that Quidnessett is old enough to become an historic landmark. And we have to, I would hope, consider the impact that we have not only on our beautiful natural resources, but also on the development that people have grown to love and depend on and has become historic. And I would suggest that we are confronted with a situation where there really is very little that can be done to protect it's really the green area as opposed to the fairway, by the way. So it's a very important area, the tee of the 15th hole and the green area around the 14th hole. In order to maintain that, there obviously was constructed the structure to maintain it. If that were lost, the golf course would be lost. And then not only is it Quidnessett that's impacted, but you also know that there is next door a senior living facility that is also in a unique position as well. I would ask that the council exercise its discretion and to change this from a type 1 to type 2 of waters. It truly is a recreational area. When I'm out and I have the pleasure of playing there and the privilege of playing there, I look out and at the boat races that are going on. I watch the quahoggers, I watch the people fishing, people paddling by. I don't see, by the way, nor have I seen for about 30 years, anybody walking along the beach, because it really did come up at high tide and there was really no access as it is. There is a sand area down hundreds of feet down the way, but the impact of that I think would be non-existent. So I ask you to, in these very unusual circumstances, to exercise your discretion and understand that there were very little, if any, alternatives to what was done, and the timing of it and the manner in which it was done, you can criticize and talk about. But I'm just looking at it from a practical position, saying that we are in a difficult place. How do you protect everybody's interests? And I would suggest that maintaining that the structure is the only way to truly protect the interests of all Rhode Islanders and of the environment and of the people who enjoy the recreational area. So with that, all I can do is say that I put my faith and trust in the people who are on the coastal management commission, and that you will do the right thing, and we can all move on together and protect the beauty of Rhode Island. Thank you.
Thank you. Philip Kaza. We'll go from there. Is it Philip here? Kaza Kalen. There you go.
My name is Philip Casa-Calenda, Casacalenda. I've been a member of Quidnessett for a few years, and I played there for the last 25 years. And it's just a beautiful place, and I'm not an engineer, and I see the wall, and I feel like they needed to protect their property, and I just it's riprap, and I don't know anything about all engineers or any engineering at all, but I just wish that people would consider giving them some relief there. Thank you.
Thank you. Mike Murphy.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Mike Murphy, M-U-R-P-H-Y, and I'm a longtime member at Quidnessett Country Club. And myself, like everyone else here that's here on behalf of Quidnessett, we love the place. It's beautiful. We love Rhode Island. We love the seashore. We love the green space. And, you know, we have a problem here. And I think that there's certainly a way to have a really positive outcome with this situation, this unfortunate situation as we sit here today. But it really can become a positive situation, I'm sure of it, because it just makes sense to have to maintain the beautiful coastline and to maintain the beauty of Quidnessett Country Club and the history of Quidnessett Country Club. And many of the members at the club are also fishermen and boaters, and they're really looking at the ocean from the club, from the green grass, and they're looking at the green grass from the ocean. And so everyone together, working together here, can certainly come to a reasonable conclusion. That's a win-win for everyone. Thank you.
Michael Woods.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and committee members. My name is Michael Woods, WOODS, and I'm here today on behalf of the New England chapter of Backcountry Hunters and Anglers. We're interested in protecting access to public lands, waters, and wildlife. And we also advocate for the habitats that fish and wildlife depend upon. I have heard that it is important to the country club to protect their interest in this piece of property by defending it. But I would remind the council that you are the stewards of the public's interest in this area, and that comes from Rhode Island's Constitution through the General Assembly, who empowered the Coastal Resources Management Council to provide for the regulation and the development of our coastal resources on behalf of the public who collectively owns these things. And so I would urge you to give equal deference to the public's interest in this area. Now, Backcountry Hunters and Anglers did submit written comments, and in these, we urged the council, the subcommittee, and ultimately the council to not proceed with rulemaking for the water type change. In those written comments, and I'm not going to reiterate them, we provided our rationale as to why this area identified as type 1 waters and was appropriately cited currently, and the change was unnecessary. I also want to acknowledge that, that there is some need to look at these enforcement cases, and there's no doubt that there's an enforcement case against an illegal development in this area on their own facts. As I see it, what has happened here is there is an applicant that knew they needed a permit and they did not get it. They proceeded with construction knowing that they shouldn't have done it, and outside of the advice of this council and any of the public input that would have come with granting a permit, they proceeded. The project here was major. It has major implications. As one of the previous witnesses stated, you can see it from 1.5 miles away on the bay. This was not somebody that was changing their garden beds or the curvature of their driveway near the beach. This is a major undertaking and has major implications on the area. And finally, when it was brought to the council's attention and an enforcement action was made, they didn't want to work within the enforcement of, the enforcement or the adjudication. They came to the council to change the rules in their favor so that their illegal activity would be legitimized. And that is what's happening here. I will finish off here by giving my take on what will happen if this rulemaking proceeds and the wall is allowed to stay. This would effectively amount to an alternative path for some people, those who can afford counsel to represent them and to fight it out in litigation, an alternate path to permitting. You would no longer have to come to the council and show your plans and have public comment to get your permit to do your project. Now you would be able to do your project, and there would be another path to get it to stay. And so for that reason, we are very concerned with this as the first step on the road to that destination. And again, I urge you to not proceed with rulemaking here and to carry out the enforcement action against the illegal activity that is already pending. I'm happy to answer any questions if you have them, and I thank you for your time.
Thank you. Kevin DeNova. There's an N at the end, Donovan or DeNova.
Mr. Chairman, that's actually an easy name, Donovan.
Oh, Donovan.
Okay. My comments are pretty brief. I'm not an expert at all in your processes or in any provable potential harm that could occur due to some rocks sitting there that are there to try to attempt to preserve important land. From my reading, it does seem that it's provable that type 2 water is the right decision here, considering on what it's based upon. But more important from my perspective is, in addition, I would encourage you to do no major damage to the Quidnessett Country Club. It's not just a golf course. It's a place where families like mine for decades and decades and gather with their children at their pool, at events. Parents and children benefit from recreation, camaraderie, skill development as well. And it's a place where many high school proms, recognition award nights take place. Also, people from all around Rhode Island hold wedding receptions at a special place that can be one of the best days of their life. So I trust your ability to reason very logically and to act with balance, to evaluate all of this, to try to keep the importance of a place like Quidnessett in mind as well. I'd strongly request you to approve the change in the water type classification, but mostly I just want to thank you for your time today. Thanks.
Thank you. C. Simonson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. My name is Tim Simonson, Simonson, and I'm a member at Quidnessett Country Club. So as I approach you today, I've tried to put myself in the position of the board and the staff involved in the rulemaking subject. And if I understand correctly, some of the rules on this topic go back 30 years, maybe to the 1980s, something like that. So I think about what was the world like, what was Rhode Island like in the 1980s, and what is it like today? I think we all can agree there's been a few changes. There are wind turbines off our coast, increasing in quantity, and that's a reality. They provide renewable energy for us. And that has something to do with what we're talking about here. It's water and things that are changing. If I understand from the popular media, this is a quote, temperatures are rising, quote, 2024 could surpass 2023 as the hottest year since records began, end quote. So we have rising sea levels as well. So these three observable facts, which I don't think any of us would acknowledge, but do exist, wouldn't contest, they do exist. So there is change. During this same time that I've just described, 30 years, 40 years, whatever it is, we've also seen the erosion of, according to the department's records, between 42 and 57 feet of shoreline, exactly where these rocks are today. So we see that things are changing. How is that change to be arrested in a way that doesn't compromise the interest of all parties? I don't know the answer to that question. That's your job. But I do reach back into history and find a quote by the Honorable Winston Churchill. And the quote attributed to him is something like this, quote, "When facts change, I change my mind. What do you do, madame?" End quote. So I don't know which way you'll go. I hope you'll go in the way of supporting the change, finding the facts as they are, and respectfully changing the rule from 1 to 2 to allow no erosion and no irreparable harm to Quidnessett Country Club. Thank you.
We also have a C. Simonson.
No, that was. Should we do it again?
No,
Sorry.
I have a C.
Oh. No.
It looks like C. Simonson, then B. Matthews, and then T. Simonson. So I don't want to, unless I'm pronouncing the C wrong, but it's different writing. You are, sir?
Bill Matthews,
All right.
Matthews. Member for over 30 years. I've seen a lot of changes in the 30 years. The membership has grown significantly. 47 condos, all the neighbors. The number of events, which by the way are dependent upon an 18-hole golf course. All of the ballrooms overlook the 14th fairway. It's the signature hole on the course. And what we experienced recently that required the fix was something that actually was experienced a decade ago, approximately. And Quidnessett came to you and asked you for your help. And what you did, even though we were type 1 waterway, was you allowed these massive sandbags. I think you called them burritos filled with sand, stacked, essentially functioning the same way as the rocks. And I thank you for making that decision a decade ago. Is that an exception to type 1 waterways? I don't know. It sounds like at the same time, type 2 should have been granted. You made the right decision with the sandbags. I'm asking you to make the right decision with the rocks. Thank you.
No way I can even see what the name is on this one. Whoever signed after T. Simonson, I mean, no one can read that.
I think it's me. Sorry. Chairman,
Looks like two initials.
my name's Ed Formisano, FOR. I'm an attorney for Janco. I also do legal work for the Janikis family. It's a wonderfully run company. It's employed hundreds of thousands of Rhode Islanders over the last 50 years. Janikis family is also. They've tried everything to remedy this problem. If the petition is not granted, it will be a grave harm to the country club as well as to the people of the street. I respectfully request that the board grant the petition. Thank you.
Jeffrey Carroll?
Forte.
Oh, yeah.
My name is Jeffrey Carroll, Carroll. I've been employed with the Jan companies for close to 13 years as the general manager of both Norton Country Club and Sterling National Country Club. Additionally, I've been involved as a consultant on special projects at Quidnessett Country Club for a number of years. I work directly for and with Vice President Janice Matthews, CEO President William Janikis, as well as Treasurer Cindy Simonson. I've had the pleasure of working for our founder, Nicholas Janikis, prior to his passing, and have seen firsthand the positive impact this family has made on employees, as well as the community, state of Rhode Island, and New England as a whole. As owners and operators, we are required to provide our employees, members, and guests with a pleasurable and safe experience. The coastal erosion along the 14th hole not only placed our property at risk, it placed our staff, members, guests, and tournament participants at risk as well. The rejection of our original proposal in 2012 would have been a terminal act had we not taken this action. I guarantee you've never seen the PGA play on a 17-hole golf course. I also guarantee that you've never participated in a charity outing, 17-hole course. Without the 14th hole, we don't have a golf course, therefore we don't have a country. The conditions were at the point that required immediate action in order to protect our business, which in turn protects revenue for the state of Rhode Island, employment for hundreds of Rhode Island residents, as well as a venue for endless charities that rely on Quidnessett's golf course and amenities as a driving force for their fundraising. Losing the 14th hole, which was inevitable prior to the seawall construction, would seal the fate of one of Rhode Island's finest properties and dispatch a 64-year-old legacy. I can tell you firsthand that this company, this family, cares about the impact it has on its employees, members, guests, patrons, and as well as the community. On behalf of the entire company, I'm asking for leniency from the council as we navigate through these challenges. The actions taken were not of malice intent. This is one Rhode Island company, one band trying to save the business. Thank you.
Greg Guini?
My name is Greg Gulino, Gulino. I'm an employee of the Jan Companies. I am a director of real estate. It's a position I've held for 12 years. It's afforded me a lot of challenges, many opportunities, but most importantly, a lot of stability. I'm here in favor of the motions before you today for reasons similar to several of my fellow employees. My concern is the costs associated with taking the wall down, impact continued erosion would have on Quidnessett as the preeminent golf course in Rhode Island and its business will have on my continued employment and the employment of my fellow employees. Thank you.
Bob McCann?
I didn't sign up to speak, but I'll come up. How you doing, guys?
How are you?
There has to be a solution that works for everybody. I'm a huge lover of the coast. I own property on the coast. I'm a boater. I love Rhode Island, born and raised in Rhode Island. Quidnessett Country Club, been a member there for 25 years. So you've heard enough about their contributions to our community, to charities, to the employment of hundreds of people, all of that type of thing. So I guess what I would say is, first of all, the course can't be redesigned. There's just not enough real estate to do that. If that hole fell into the ocean, there's going to be condos there. There'll be no golf course. So all the community and all that stuff, it's history. I think that there has to be a solution. I don't know how long that wall is. They're asking for an exception for a wall that maybe it's a couple 100 feet long in that particular area. And I don't think they randomly just built a wall. I mean, that thing was going down. That club was gonna fall into the ocean. They wouldn't have wanted to do that, have it that expense, et cetera. So I'd love to see if you guys could come up with solutions. Been a lot of great comments today. And I agree with what Jeff Gladstone said. I'm putting the trust in you guys. You seem like intelligent, folks, and hopefully make a decision that makes the most sense for Rhode Island. Thank you.
Thank you. Rich Hittinger.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My name is Rich Hittinger. It's Hittinger. I'm the first vice president of Rhode Island Saltwater Anglers, and along with Scott, who spoke earlier, Scott, who will speak after me, and Fred, who spoke earlier, we represent 7,500 affiliate members in Rhode Island, Massachusetts, and nearby Connecticut. We are opposed to this reclassification. If building an illegal structure has led someone to request reclassification so that a permit application could be submitted, that's kind of putting the cart way before the horse. Quidnessett Country Club is a great place. I've been there. I've actually even played golf there. But as an organization, they should have made their case long before building an illegal wall. They knew from previous discussions and previous applications to the CRMC that this was not allowed. And I understand going through the reclassification process, but it's way too late. That should have been done long ago. Doing it this way, I say, is analogous to a very influential and wealthy person getting a ticket on Route 95 for driving 75 and a 55. And then coming forward and saying, well, my attorney is the former attorney general, and I have an engineer here who can document that that stretch of highway where I was ticketed really is straight, it's very safe, it can be driven 75. You should change the speed limit on that section of highway to 75. You don't do that retroactively. And then even if that speed limit was changed, the ticket still is valid because the individual violated the law at the time. So this wall cannot stand. It must be removed. And then if the water quality reclassification is appropriate, then a designed structure of some sort to prevent this erosion can be considered, and an application properly submitted can be considered by the council. Otherwise, we're very much opposed to the reclassification. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Scott Travers.
Good evening, members of the council. I'm Scott Travers, Travers. I'm the executive director of the Rhode Island Saltwater Anglers Association. Again, the council is here to preserve and protect Rhode Island waters. Preserve and protect. Changing a water type simply to support an illegally built structure is a terrible precedent. It neither preserves nor protects Rhode Island waters. It tells other developers, if you ignore the law, you develop, you build, you change the waterfront, no one will stop you. Any effort to intentionally build a structure, knowing that it was being done illegally and without proper permitting, should not be condoned, supported, or endorsed in any way. There are plenty of examples of those who would act outside the law and seek to change the law to avoid consequences of their actions. I've heard many people speak this evening regarding protecting the club, the employees, their careers, and money. Who here is charged with protecting the environment? Who here is going to protect Rhode Island's waters? Coastal Resource Management Council is here to do just that. Rhode Island's waters are special places too. Rhode Islanders depend on these waters and shore access for locally sustainable food sources for families. I urge the council to act to preserve and protect Rhode Island's waters in this matter. Thank you.
Thank you. Kevin Hoy. Hello.
My name is Kevin Hoy, Haughey. I've been a member of Quidnessett Country Club for over 40 years. In fact, I met my wife there. I enjoyed raising my kids there. Made great friends over the years and even secured my first business loan through a relationship I got there. When I first joined Quidnessett Country Club, the area that we're discussing had all of 50 feet, in my opinion, of beach there. People used to walk out to the beach, both members and non-members, dig clams, dig quahooks, which otherwise would not have been able to happen if Quidnessett over time did not do the things that are required to keep the coastline accessible. burritos were a failure, unfortunately. They've used it more than once, I believe it was twice. And over time, they spent multiple dollars in order to protect this 14th hole that we're discussing. Storms have obviously caused major erosion over those 40 years. And I've experienced a decay, decade after decade. Deterioration of the shoreline of Quidnessett Country Clubs, it's not the only place this is happening. As stated by many others today, this is happening all over Rhode Island. My question is, do we look at a water analysis from decades ago and just say this is what it is and which properties get destroyed and eliminated? Or do we look at this today's the new science showing global warming becoming a major issue? This topic is discussed all the time on the news, as we all know, and the science requires updating not only potentially the waterway classifications, but how decisions are made. I realize there needs to be rules and regulations, but quite often in our society, rules and regulations are changed. It's obviously that both parties have spent great time and money to research this process. Instead of making this an example, I ask you to make this an opportunity to revisit the waterway classifications, not only outside Quidnessett Country Club, but for the entire state of Rhode Island, since it's been decades that this has been done. Not to be sarcastic, but in Rhode Island, if someone stands to your home, you feel threatened, you're allowed to shoot them. However, if you watch your property deteriorate, continue investing in it over the years, you're not allowed to protect your property. I think that may be something we want to look at. Thank you.
Richard Langsleth.
Richard Langseth, Budlong Farm Road, Warwick, it's Langseth. I'd like to speak on behalf of the staff of CRMC who enforce the regulations, including seawalls. In my neighborhood, in Buttonwoods, we've had 2 seawall incidents. The first was a failure of the Buttonwoods Fire District seawall, which created mayhem environmentally. That seawall was not permitted, and it failed during Hurricane Gloria, spewing rocks and debris for a half a mile down the beach. If the CRMC had been involved in that and created an appropriate seawall, it would not have failed. So this creation of a seawall without a permit raises substantial questions about the safety of the people in the area and the use of the beach. And it creates great difficulty for the staff of CRMC who are trying to enforce regulation if the committee were to suggest that the rule be changed. As you know, I'm a strong advocate of the CRMC and its staff's work. In the second instance, a neighbor of mine built a very substantial seawall without a permit, hundreds of thousands of dollars on Budlong Farm Road. The CRMC came by and suggested that he take the seawall down. He took the seawall down and rebuilt the seawall appropriately. Now we have a good seawall. If the CRMC were to go down the road suggested by the petitioners, it would cut the legs off of the staff who are attempting to enforce the current regulation, no matter what the water type is. This is a very, very serious issue. And as we all know, the CRMC has been subject to question in the past about not following staff recommendations. And in the past 3 or 4 years, there's been a great improvement in that. And I recommend, Mr. Hoyer, that you should be accommodated for that. You've done good work in this. So therefore, what I'm saying is this is a very, very bad situation, not about economic development, not about pristine waters versus type 2 waters,
but just the fact of CRMC doing its job, it needs to be supported by the board so that it can do its job. There's one other point I want to make. A lot of people here are suggesting that this is an economic development issue, that jobs will be lost if this were to go forward. But I need to remind everybody that tourism in Rhode Island is probably the #1 industry after maybe military construction. It's very, very important. The Commerce Corporation spends millions of dollars a year on tourism. And we need to make sure that we have type 1 water protection for tourism. And I do believe that that's one of the missions of the CRMC. So obviously, I'm much opposed to this. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Carl Waterton. I'm good with names.
Sure.
People write these things.
Thank you, board members. Waden Sten, WADENSTEN. And I'm here today as a resident of South Kingstown, lived on the water my whole life, as a board member for Commerce Corporation. Yes, Rhode Island is a big commerce destination, not speaking on behalf of commerce, but we are a big destination. It's a big part of our economy, but we need places for people to go. And the places that people want to go are Block Island, the cliff walks down from Block Island that all of us love. We can no longer get down those because they were not maintained. They are the mansion walks along Newport that were not maintained. And you know, I lived down in Matunic. I've lived there my whole life. I've watched Governor Chafee's estates be moved twice. Their houses have been moved twice, and the shoreline's been tried to be protected to save those homes. And I think now they're abutted on the property line that they're going into the water. You see Narragansett and Narrow River, place that I love to go with my children and surf and be. And Narragansett is a mere shadow of what it used to be. It's really, really sad. This blue economy at the State House level and the initiative for the state of Rhode Island, and I'm sure you guys know on the board because you have your wind farms and you have all the things that go with blue economy. You are building the plane while you're flying it. It's a hard job. It's a really hard job. These things are coming at us extremely, extremely fast. When these laws and all these things were promulgated 30 or 40 years ago, who would have ever thought the water would raise this high? I remember being a young student at Rocky Hill off of Ives Road and walking around that whole shoreline during a science class and our senior project and being able to go down to Matunic, and I could walk the whole Potter's Pond area, whether it was high or low tide, I could walk the whole shoreline. If you try to do that today, you'd be waist deep or neck deep in water. And it's just really, really sad to see these resources changing so rapidly. And a lot of it is due to environmental, a lot of it's due to man, a lot of it's due to a lot of things. But what do we do here in Rhode Island as the ocean state? You know, I love the ocean state. I have grandchildren now that I'd love to be able to do the things that I've done before on the water. You have private, public, profit, nonprofit having a big bang together. They're all fighting for what they need and how they support the state of Rhode Island. The environmental and economic impacts for our state are competing urgencies. And I don't admire the job that you guys have here because it's a lot of people doing things. And as business owners, I'm a business owner and a president of a manufacturing company. And thank God I live far inland because maybe I'll be waterfront one day in Richmond. But thank God I'm that far out. And we do have protected waters there. We have a big gravel bank. We have aquifers there that feed that whole area. And I've watched that get decimated, right? But the key with business people, and if you hear business people talk about this, everybody heard business and economy pop up here. Business people do things to survive for the people that work for them That is their credo. People give up their daily time to come and work for a business. They expect business owners to make sure that they have gainful employment all the time. And when we see a problem, we go and fix it. And maybe building a seawall wasn't the right fix, but I think it was in all good respect for the people, for the golf course, and for me as a business owner, and my short-sightedness, I'd rather see pristine land there than condominiums. We don't need more building along the waterfront. I'm sure you guys are abreast of that. So if they can keep a golf course, it's a win-win. And please consider, and if you have any questions, you're more than welcome to ask.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Some individuals that signed did not put a check mark that they wish to speak, but they did sign a Mark Scott. Mark wish to speak? Is he here? No, okay. John Russell? Christian Ravasto?
It's John.
Who's getting up? Okay.
He's obscured by the,
I overparked. Wasn't expecting to speak. See you, ladies and gentlemen. I am a short-term member of Quidnessett Country Club. It's about 6 years. And
Can you identify yourself for the record, please?
yeah, John Russell,
Yeah.
RUSSELL.
Thank you.
And the experience of playing golf for me, I'm such a high handicapper, I really deserve that. But I played for a long time in different parts of the country. And there is something about playing on the course again and again. It really gets to be a part of your being. It's and this particular course is beautiful. It's the most gorgeous view I can think of, Rhode Island, looking out on the water. And that is something that is, I think, very near and dear to all of the members. You have a difficult job. Obviously, there's been regulations, procedures that have been ignored to a certain extent. On the other hand, I think if you're the owner of property, watching all of this deterioration, finally, I think it just comes to a point where you say, I can't stand it any longer. I've got to do something. And I think that's kind of the operating dynamic, if you will, here in this case. So I would plead, gentlemen, to try to look at this as possibly a one-time thing. Extraordinary expense has already been incurred, and more extraordinary expense coming. It's very to the line, as you all suggested, should. It's asking a lot. So, other than that, I just hope you'll rule in our direction.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Joanne West?
Council, my name is Joanne West, WEST. I am an employee of Quidnessett, and I do support petition to change the waterway from type 1 to 2. I believe what they're trying to do is a good thing. It's a wonderful place to work. I know what, my other fellow, colleagues had said, it's like a family, and it certainly is. And I believe, again, they were just trying to do a good thing and, you know, for their members and for their employees and just for their business altogether.
Thank you. I'd call the Christian Rufasto, this Christian.
Mr. Chairman, I'm on Steve. We're gonna do a healthy swap if that's okay.
Okay.
Thank you. I'm Swestate Armani CP SCPE. I don't come today as an angler or even a member of Quidnessett Country Club. I'm as a licensed nursing home administrator at Bayview Scalabrini, right next door to Quidnessett. We have about 1,000 feet of shoreline. We're home to about 120 residents of North Kingstown, about 300 families and about 150 employees. You know, people choose Bayview for many reasons, one of them being, you know, being right on the shoreline. And we really are trying to preserve that at all costs. And no, we haven't come before the council before, and no, we haven't put in a petition or, you know, water class change, but our shoreline is definitely eroded over the years. I mean, this land has so much history between the Allen family, Rhode Island Hospital, when they opened up Crawford Island Memorial Hospital, the Whitman family. You know, I just turned 30 years old and I can't safely walk that shoreline. Nor on our property, 1,000 feet, is there any beach access for any public to be able to come in. Our goal for Bayview Scalabrini is to continue growing. Certainly, we know that Rhode Island is the oldest state in the entire country. Right now, we operate as a skilled nursing facility and long-term care facility, but we do have intentions of one day expanding to offer assisted living, independent living, which is much needed for Rhode Islanders in the state. So with that being said, I fully support this petition. Our residents love to go outside and watch people tee off on the 15th hole, you know, be able to see them putting on the 14th. And, you know, despite doing something reactive, it really was necessary because I'm out there just looking at it and it's right there. Even our residents say it. So residents that have been there for 10 plus years. So with that being said, again, I come from a different standpoint, but I fully support them. So thank you for your time.
Thank you. Peter Gendro, does Peter wish to speak? Excuse me? Okay, hold on.
My name is Christian Rufasto, RUFF, ASTO, and I am the club manager of Quidnessett Country Club. I used to be the former chef, started at Quidnessett back in 2019. And I mean, it's been a great spot, definitely changed my career around that I took over the club. And, you know, it's been a successful time. The golf course is a great spot, met new members, staff, work one-on-one, and it's just been a great place to work at. I'm in favor for the club. I work directly for Janice Matthews, who's the vice president of the company. And the obviously what we're asking for is to change the type water from 1 to 2, and that would just, you know, benefit the club as far as like what we do for the community. I mean, we do a lot of events at Quidnessett. We do charity events. We donate constantly to the North Kingstown pantry, food pantry, and also Veterans Association. So we do a lot of good stuff for the club. I mean, for the society. And I'm just here to support. And if there's anything else that questions, I mean,
Thank you. Did Peter Gendro wish to speak?
Peter Gendro, Gendereau. I've been a 30+ year employee for Janco, which I'm grateful for my position. I am currently the banquet manager at Quidnessett, and I have a large diverse group of people that work for me, grandmothers, grandfathers, moms, dads, URI students, who are all and very much in need of their income, and I'm basically gonna advocate for them and ask for your, respectfully ask for the change we're requesting.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Great, that have signed up. Yeah, okay. Good, right. Amy Sonder. Hello.
Hi, thank you. Amy Sonder, I'm a resident in North Kingstown, a member of the North Kingstown Conservation Commission, and I own a small survey and design company who works frequently with coastal resources. We heard this case before the Conservation Commission in North Kingstown, and although many of the members were somewhat sympathetic to the country club and their employees and the members, the Conservation Commission and Harbor Commission felt very strongly against this petition, as this approval would, one, set a precedent for other landowners abutting type 1 waters to go through the same process. I myself live in Wickford and abut type 1 waters, and I respect and appreciate and act as a good neighbor to those waters. The country club and golf course was substantially built in the time frame of these regulated type 1 waters. There has been ample evidence and was ample evidence at the time of design and construction, noting the receding shoreline over the past 100 years. There should have been more consideration of this potential shoreline erosion during the initial design and for the past 40 to 50 years. I strongly suggest you side on the air of the shoreline and the environmental features, such as the very sensitive tributary to the south of this area of Tibbetts Creek. These areas cannot speak for themselves, and it's your job to do so. We do not know the effects of the installation of this wall as it was installed without permits and no oversight by any agency. I do feel that something can be negotiated between Coastal Resources, Quidnessett Country Club. But Quidnessett Country Club may have to make some adjustments and sacrifices, which they seem to not be willing to do when it comes to their property. I strongly encourage you to consider the letter from the Town of North Kingstown Town Council voting against this petition and making a decision that will affect the public's interest and not the private interest of the country. Lastly, as a resident and a boat owner who frequently uses the bay, this installation is an eyesore and at a minimum should be removed and closely restored to its recent state prior to the install. Again, thank you for your consideration and I appreciate it.
Thank you. Elaine Gebhardt.
Elaine Gebhardt, last name is spelled Gebhardtc. I come here today, I am the Executive Director for the New England Golf Course Owners Association. Quidnessett Country Club is one of my member clubs. I am here to support them today. One thing that I want to do is just share with you the impact that golf has, the golf industry has on the economy. We are $101 billion economic impact. You've heard from a number of employees here from Quidnessett. We employ 1.6 million employees across the country. We're a significant employer. The nice thing about the employee situation is that we employ from the very first jobs that young teenagers get, all the way through retirees coming and working after they retire from their primary careers. So employment is a huge impact across the board. We have 41 million people who play golf in the country. Heard from some of those folks as well in support of Quidnessett's situation. And then lastly, I'd like to comment on the charitable impact that we, through the golf industry and the golf events that take place, over $10.8 billion is raised in charitable funds. That's more than the NFL, the MLB, the NBA, and even there's one more, I can't remember, but all of them combined. So the charitable impacts. So coming up with a resolution that keeps Quidnessett viable, and as far as their employees go, as far as their functions go, they've probably got functions that are booked out for years to come. And for all of those events that are raising charities that are held at their facility. So we would like to see that a resolution can come that works for all, and in particular doesn't impact all of those issues that I just. Thank you.
Thank you. Ken Rudman.
My name is Ken Budman, R-U-D-M-A-N. I didn't come here to speak today. I really came here in support of the club that I belong to, because since I joined there about 4 years ago, they've been very, very supportive, not just of me, but especially needs son. So I thought that was the least I could do. But when I showed up today, I saw a good friend of mine. He was here to speak for the other side. His name was Rich Hiddinger. He was sitting right in the middle there where I was sitting. And we have been good friends for over a decade. And he's on the other side. He's in the Rhode Island Anglers Association. And he's as a career now as a fisherman. We swim together a lot and we fish together occasionally also. I'd call him a really, really good friend to each other's homes and that sort of thing. And we didn't know that we were both going to be here today. I play golf as an activity, a social activity. I really consider it much exercise. It's a social exercise. Somebody like myself, it's not very sociable. It's a really good exercise. Quidnessett Country Club, they really shouldn't be calling it a country club. It's more of a golf club. It's nothing like Augusta. It's not like people think. We have people of all ethnicities, all colors. And Chef Gladstone get up with a hat, but you wouldn't see it in a lot of country clubs. It's a great place. But that being said, I've been on the other end of it. 3 years ago, I received a letter from Coastal Resources that expressed law. And I was a little bit curious as to what to do. I was asking friends, and I asked a few people at Quidnessett in the family of the ownership. And one of the people said, well, let me backtrack. A lot of recommendations were, oh, you need to hire an attorney. We spoke to an attorney and we were going to fight it. I was going to spend all the money I'd made in years of dentistry and be so old that I wouldn't be able to enjoy the fruits of the victory if I won, which was unlikely. So somebody at Quidnessett suggested, why don't you speak to a biologist and see what can be done? And I spoke to a biologist and relatively short amount of time came to an agreement. My problems went away. And I can sit here and tell you that I'm actually a fan of CRMC because not only did that problem go away, I didn't know about 2 years later, my house was going to get struck by lightning and I was going to be at the mercy of Coastal Resources again. And they expedited things for me. And I guess what I'm saying is I think there's a lot of room for compromise here. I don't know the particulars of the building of this wall and permitting, but I don't think it's cut and dry. Like my friend Rich said, tell them to take this thing down. Some people are saying, change the type of the water. Good God. I'm not sure if anything is that simple, but I know with some of the personnel that's in this room today, there's definitely a way that it could be amicably settled and agreed, compromised. And if it doesn't, then they can go on with or make it into a federal case. But I just think that there is some room. I don't want to quote a politician, but I can tell you that there's good people on both sides. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you. That is everyone that signed up to speak. Is there anyone that wishes to speak that did not sign up? Sir, come forward.
Leads DALISE. One of the things that I feel that has happened by building the wall, we've protected a very vital piece of real estate. But we've also done something else. Along that wall, there are now snails, oysters, clams, all kinds of environmental things that are living in the wall. We have seabirds that are nesting there. This has more of a natural impact on the environment in a good way, and obviously in a bad way. It's done more good for the property than it's doing a lot for the environment. We have a very nice situation that is created by that wall. We have living creatures that are now enjoying that wall. I've heard a lot of talk about this and that. I think the wall has created a very nice situation for the club, protecting the 14th hole. It's also helped the environment. And the living creatures that come out of the sea are using that wall today as their home. Thank you very much for your time.
No, I'm not gonna. Not everybody speaks as loud as I do. I suggest a microphone for the chairman, microphone for people that want to speak. We got a lot of old people over here who can't hear.
My suggestion there is,
What?
tell us that, tell me that 2 hours ago and I would have made some arrangements. I want everyone to hear everything that's going on, so.
Some people have been speaking loud enough.
Okay.
Other people have been. Okay. Yes.
All right, I appreciate it. Yes, sir.
Get that other gentleman's name.
Don't you get a procedural comment? I don't think you need to have it.
Okay, I'm just.
Comment from the audience.
My name is Michael Baker, Baker. Can everyone hear me?
That's better.
I'll try to be loud. I reside in North Kingstown and have been a longtime member of Quidnessett Country. I'm speaking in favor of the applicant's request today. The goal of the request is to save and protect one of the most iconic waterfront vistas on Narragansett Bay on 14th hole. As a longtime member, I've witnessed the increasing severe winter storms and their devastating effect on the area in question of this application. You are only being asked today to reclass a portion of QCC waterfront property being affected by the erosion. The more sensitive areas of the waterfront land will be left as Class 1 waters. It seems evident that the uses on the portions of Quidnessett, construction of the condos, and the Scalabrini property doubling the size of their facility have intensified the use of the property and now properly fit into
class 2 waters in those areas. An important point that you should be aware of and consider is that the waterfront and undeveloped land which golf course sits on is subject to a open space easement granted to the town of North Kingstown when QCC Corp. Developed the condominiums, which now sit on the inland portion of the course. This easement prevents any further development of property in the future. There's no ulterior motive for this application. The motive is simple: to preserve and protect what exists there today. I ask you to do your job as committee members. Understand the applicant's request, listen and read all the relevant testimony and evidence presented, and make a thoughtful decision. And ignore the political rhetoric and those who want to pit the rich country club owners and members against the average Joe. That has no place in this hearing. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else wish to speak? That will close this part of the P&P meeting for today. Next matter on our agenda, and any other business?
There is no other business on the agenda, Mr. Chair.
Any new business?
None.
Staff reports?
No staff report tonight, Mr. Chair.
Before we entertain a motion to adjourn, I just want to thank everyone for your comments and the professionalism in the delivery of it. I know when there's someone on both sides of an issue, sometimes it gets a little contentious, but everyone handled themselves well. So I want to thank everyone for that. And with that, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Is there a second? Motion made and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Meeting adjourned.